How long does the DOJ have, and what is your position here as you guys wait for the judge to make an order? When does this actually happen?
So the time expired already. I mean, as we sit here today in August, on August 13th, 2026, each and every day after December 19th, 2025 has been a violation of the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Now, to compound the problem for Blanche and the DOJ, you have violations of court orders. If I were the judge, it would have been a totally different outcome today. I think that it underscores how the frustration of not only me as a plaintiff litigant in this case, but also the American people, we see a double standard being applied when it comes to the imposition of the rules, when it comes to the imposition of the law. And I think it also talks on the bigger picture issue, which is the Epstein elite. People with money, means, and influence being able to escape liability, culpability, prosecution, maybe even having to pay for the crimes that they've committed. And I think that is why even the judge today, who was incredibly measured, he's a senior judge, he's been on the bench for decades, and he said, pretty much, didn't you know you had to come today and answer these questions? I mean, there was a detected note of frustration from him. And I think that he knew, though, that it wasn't Todd Blanche and it wasn't Stanley Woodward and it wasn't somebody who was super high up in the food chain at the DOJ that came to court today. And so I think he was trying to be tempered. And yet I appreciate that. And yet I don't appreciate it. Meaning I want action. There's a reason why I've been pushing as hard as I am, because for a long time, it's been stagnant. This law got passed. Some things were dropped. There were tranches of documents, but then ultimately people were standing there looking at each other saying, well, they violated it. What do we do? And that's the reason why I sued.
Well, and that's why I say, God bless you for pushing for transparency and keeping up what is a tedious, labor-intensive, I'm sure expensive fight for transparency here. But listening to the readout of Judge Sullivan today, it does seem like he is getting close to the end of his fuse and that he's about to blow. And he talked about calling DOJ attorneys into contempt. How serious do you think that threat is, and what does it mean?
The judge spent, of a 2-hour hearing, he spent a good 30 minutes talking about an anecdotal story where he himself had found that 4 DOJ prosecutors had violated an order, and he held them in contempt. He held them in civil contempt. He said that they purged that civil contempt by turning over documents they were required to do for that court order. 3 out of those 4 DOJ prosecutors appealed, and the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals upheld his contempt findings. He was giving a very strong warning to these DOJ lawyers. I have done it before. I can do it again. That is not a threat. That's a promise. And so what I want people to understand is, yes, the wheels of justice move very slowly for our taste, but a judge has to lay a record, has to give enough rope for these people to hang themselves to be able to get to the point where he says, we're done. I am holding you in contempt. In order to purge, you have to do X, Y, and Z. For a minute there, I got a little worried because he's like, the plaintiff, Ms. Fang, has asked for contempt. I'm like, yeah, I mean, anybody would have done it. But one thing that he did say that I wanted to make sure everybody heard was this. He actually asked this lead federal prosecutor who came to defend Todd Blanche today, how is this case not of serious priority for you at the DOJ? He said repeatedly, how is this not a top priority case for you? This is the Epstein files. He said, I once contemplated doing sealed proceedings with just the government, and then I said no, because the public and the victims deserve to know what the hell is going on in this case. That is the language he used. And so for this federal judge to be at his wit's end, but to still be giving the grace to these people to do the right thing, shows that he's really laying the foundation for them to be held in contempt.
I appreciate that. I'm with you. I mean, in the sense that, if I'm the judge at this point in the game and I'm looking at these guys and I'm looking at my fellow judges around the country having to deal with these DOJ lawyers coming in front of their courtroom, as my mama would say, showing their behind, to say it politely, and trying to get away with it. So you got to set an example somewhere.
You do.
This is the case to do that. And here's why. Let's take a look at the timeline we're talking about. July 15th of 2025, folks, is when Representatives Khanna and Massey introduced the bill. House passes it November of 18 on the 2025. Senate passes it by unanimous consent the next day. Trump signs it into law on the 19th of November 2025. The statutory deadline to comply was December 19th. And we have been in this fight ever since, to the point where Katie files her lawsuit on the 27th of this year.
Yeah.
And so at some point, and we were talking about this in the last segment, Katie, with Mark Elias, the judges have to stop treating this administration and this president as if they are trying to follow the law. If you followed the law, you would have had everything in place by December 19th, 2025. We wouldn't be here, Mr. President. And the judge, I think, at some point has to put the foot down. Do you think this is the moment? Because I know we're all waiting.
Yeah.
Do you think this is the moment where the judge realized these people aren't going to do right by this? Because I no matter what I say, short of contempt or whatever, they're going to come up with some laying behind excuse.
Yeah, and I think that it hasn't escaped his notice that this new lawyer filed a notice of appearance at the 11th hour last night to roll in and not have answers that the judge was requiring him to have. We're not dumb, right, including this judge. But I do think the judge also is saying to everybody who's tuning in to listen, he was like, look, there is a law that was passed by Congress reminding people that there is Article I power there, right, and that this law was passed to give transparency. And he always wanted to underscore the importance of the victims, making sure that they get the transparency that they deserve. I believe that we just have to keep going. I know the frustrations there, and I know people are like wanting to have more, but I'm telling people don't lose hope, because look how far we've come in just a couple of months of me filing this lawsuit. And I am doggedly pursuing this. This is a huge part of what I am doing. And I believe in this judicial system because at the end of the day, there's this presumption of regularity that is gone. It's a presumption of irregularity. And I don't accept that. And no American should. And that's the reason why we should be fighting as hard as we are. There were people today in court. There was a gentleman I met outside, and I took a picture with him. And he said, the sign said, release the files. And then he added all in red, because that's what we deserve. Not because we're asking for more than what the law is. That's all I want. I want the law and nothing less.